Welcome to Dark Horse Auto and Diesel. Today I'm going to be replacing my blower motor for the HVAC and also the resistor for the blower motor. And since they're both such simple jobs, I figured I'd just throw them together into one single video. I'm going to start with the blower motor here, and before I even take that or attempt to take that out, we got to remove the vacuum pump right here in order to have room to slide this whole thing out of here. So there's a bolt right there. That's going to be 10 millimeter. We'll take that out. And there's another 10 millimeter bolt right there. It's so rusty it's kind of hard to see it, but it's there. And the best way to get to it is just a 1/4 inch ratchet with a deep well 10 mil on it. And I don't remember if these are hot or not, but I'm going to treat them as if they are. Next we'll unplug the wire for the fan here. I don't know why that says push on it, because you actually need to pull. Next we'll grab a hold of this little rubber band thinger here, pull that over that, and then this hose coming off the bottom here. Just kind of pull that out of there. It's got a little kind of like a grommet sort of fit. It's got a little groove in it. You can see there, it locks into the bottom. Now we can take these 3 screws out here, and those hold the blower motor in. Those are 8 millimeter. Now we can pull the motor, the whole motor assembly, out of the housing here. Now, if you bought a new one that doesn't have the fan attached to it, obviously you'll have to pull the fan off of your old one and install it onto the new one, but that's pretty straightforward. Not going to explain that part of it. Also, make sure you got your gasket put on here. This one came with a pretty craptastic gasket. It's like too small, so I had to stretch it over it, but it'll work. So now we'll get our new one installed. And there's a little alignment tab or alignment pin right here. I'd recommend getting them all 3 started before you tighten them down. Now go ahead and get all 3 of them snugged up. Don't go super tight on them. They are just threading into plastic, so just snug, I would say, would be good enough. And there's also an alignment pin down here if you didn't notice. I'm not torquing them down all the way yet. I'm just kind of running them down a little bit at a time, just to make sure that gasket seats in there evenly. Once it's touching all the way around, go ahead and put the final snug on it. Next we'll get this hose put back on, and it's not really much of a trick to it other than just kind of work it in all the way around. Put this part on first, might help a little bit. Just feel all the way around it, make sure that it's actually locked in, kind of tug on it a little bit. Good to go. Then plug this back in. Now we'll get our vacuum pump hooked back up in here, and it's got a little tab that lines into that slot. Probably obvious enough that I didn't actually have to tell you that. And when you're tightening this bottom bolt up, it actually helps to leave this top one sticking out up here. Don't run that in hardly at all. That way this will move around and allow you to get your ratchet in there a little bit easier. And that's it for the fan motor. Now we will move on to the resistor. Now before I really get started on the resistor, a little bit of advice here. I would recommend getting a new pigtail for this. I paid like $5 for it on Rock Auto. I don't know if I'm going to need it or not, but for $5 it's worth the insurance. These things tend to break pretty easily. These little ears pop off here. They break off and then the thing won't want to stay on. So I'd recommend having one on hand. And then as far as the resistor itself goes, I went with a Motorcraft one. This one's an aftermarket one that I put in about 2 years ago, and it's already failed on me. The original Motorcraft one lasted like 18. I probably should have done the same with the fan as well, but like an idiot, I went cheap and aftermarket, and I'll probably be replacing that in 2 years. So first what I'm going to do is just get 2 screwdrivers and try to evenly pry out on these little clips here to pop this off, so hopefully we don't break it. Like that. As long as one of those fingers is still there, you can still run it. That's what I'm going to do if this one doesn't break. So sometimes you might have to resort to plan B, which is removing the resistor from the housing and then taking the wiring off. Sometimes you can get lucky and they'll pop off there, but obviously in this case I'm not lucky. So there's 2 8mm screws on this, and right there is the other screw. Now that you've got this out with some different tools and a little bit of creativity, you should be able to manage to get this popped off. I try to keep my channel PG-13, somewhere in that range, and I feel like I'm probably going to be speaking in a rated R manner, and it might even end up getting so bad that I would make Samuel L. Jackson blush.
English, motherfucker! Mother.
So this genius thought occurred to me while I'm messing with this thing. Hey, stupid, you're replacing the resistor. Who cares if you destroy it? Destroy that instead of destroying your plug. So I just started shredding this thing apart with pliers, and here's some of the pieces for it. But unfortunately, you can see that mine needs to be replaced anyway. So I'm just going to cut the thing off and replace it. If yours looks like that, definitely replace it, because that's getting to the point of being a fire hazard. And lucky for any of you that's watching this video, you get to see how to replace that as well. I was hoping to not have to do that, but it is what it is. Now, one thing you're definitely going to want to do is compare the wire colors on the new one versus your original. So you can actually see they're not all exactly the same. They're pretty close, but on the original, that center wire there is black, and on my new one, it's orange and black, and the black wire is down here, whereas on this one's probably pretty close to orange and black. Yeah, so that means that whichever Chinese 5-year-old in the factory that put this together flipped those 2 wires around. So just to keep my OCD happy, I'm going to flip these 2 wires, that orange and black and the black. I'm going to switch those around inside this plug. So it's this wire and this wire I need to switch around. And if you look, you can see this extra little tab right here on both of them. That's actually what holds the pin in. So let's get behind it with like a little pick or something and gently pry on it. And then just pull backwards on the wire. Then just stick it back in where you want it. You'll hear it click a little bit, and they typically only go in one way. There we go. Now our wire colors are at least close to correct. Rather than bore you with video of me splicing wires together, which any idiot can do, and proof of that is the fact that I just did it, instead I'm going to give you some advice. The most important piece of advice I can give you here is how you connect these wires. You can see that I used heat shrink connectors. The best option would be to solder them with heat shrink, but I suck at soldering, especially in tight quarters like this, so I didn't even try it. But the second best option would be heat shrink connectors like this. Absolutely do not use regular butt connectors like this here. These don't seal anything out from the elements, and obviously being under the hood here, it is exposed to the elements. You will end up with corrosion. It will be a failure point. Might be a year, might be 5 years, who knows, but just don't do it. Do it right. Another little bit of advice, I would recommend not doing what I did. Cut some of this wire off. This is ridiculously long now, and as soon as I got these connected, I looked at this and like, man, that's way too much wire, but it's too late now and I'm not going to go back and fix it, so it's just going to stay that way. Really, you could get away with cutting it about where my right hand is here, and that actually still gives you a little bit more wire than what the factory left you. So if you need it, here is the part number for the Motorcraft blower motor resistor. Now we'll go ahead and install the resistor. It only goes in one way, so you can't screw that up. Now remember, you're threading these into plastic also, just like the blower motor, so don't over tighten them. Just kind of snug is good enough. Next we'll install our stupidly long wire here. Hopefully yours isn't like mine. These are rather difficult to get on, even the new ones. You're going to want to make sure that it is plugged in all the way. And that's what it should look like. And now, time for a function check. Well, that's a good sign. I didn't have anything but high before I started this job. It's nice that the new blower motor also doesn't make all sorts of weird grindy sounds as well. Awesome. That's all there is to it. Now you can go ahead and open up the beverage of your choice to celebrate a job well done. And I know what my beverage of choice is. Thanks for watching.